My flesh is weakness. I crave the certainty of steel. I must merge with the machine gods. The cloud is not close enough. I need the machine god in my grasp. I must construct a home lab.
Oh my god.
But before we merge, today's video is sponsored by some Be Quiet peripheral setup action. This setup with its Be Quiet light mount keyboard, Dark Perk symmetrical mouse, and Be Quiet mousepad lets you interface with the machine god using some quiet, satisfying switch action. And aside from the light mount's solid knob game, it's also got great lighting and a comfortable wrist rest. So pair one with a Dark Perk symmetrical and its high performance sensor using the links down below. Today we're gonna start my first few tentative steps on the very terrifying journey of self-hosting all of my own stuff. And because this is a very, very deep rabbit hole, I'm gonna start small. I'm gonna set like 3 goals that I want to accomplish by the end of this video. The first one is to set up some network access storage, which I'm gonna do with this ASUS NAS. ASUS sent this over like 2.5 years ago. I did a video where I gamed on it and I did some terrible stuff to it. I don't actually know if it's still gonna be working fine, so fingers crossed on that one. Luckily, Marco from ASUS also sent over 4 of these 4TB drives around the same time as this NAS. So I have a bunch of storage and a NAS available for me to set up. So I want this running by the end of the video. The second goal for today's video is to set up a self-hosting notes app. I know, very ambitious of me. I'm gonna use all 16 terabytes of hard drive for some notes. But the reason why I'm starting with something as basic as a notes app is because goal number 3 is gonna be pretty complicated. I want to set up a reverse proxy so that I can access all of the stuff on my network access storage not on this network, from like out and about in the world. And as far as I understand it, this is basically arcane black magic, so that's gonna be what we dedicate most of the struggling to in today's video. But before we get to that, let's circle back to goal number 1. Drop all these hard drives in this ASUS NAS and pray that I didn't break it like 2.5 years ago. Oh. Now, another thing that's got me sweating bullets over whether or not this is actually going to work is because of the massive idiot that I am. I managed to lose the power brick for this thing. I don't know how, but it wasn't in the box. So what I had to do instead was find another power brick, which might work for it. This is actually from a Cybertruck mini PC. It's the same wattage-ish of the one that came with the ASUS NAS, and the barrel plug fits. So hopefully this works. But before we plug this in, let's do the drives. So we just... Oh yeah, I don't have screws for this either. I mean, screws I can definitely find. I've got infinite screws. Honestly, at this point, I don't even know how I managed to dress myself in the morning anymore. Like, this is crazy. But I managed to find some screws that work. So, you know, we got that going for us. We've made it through another challenge. And then... Okay, so now we have to face up to the consequences of my eternal neglect of stuff. Luckily, we have Corsair's new Xenon Edge display. It's gonna make it real easy for us to see if we still have a functional operating system on this thing. Look at it, it's like a second display that we're using as a primary little one. But anyway, let's plug this in. Okay, the barrel connector fits. Does this turn on? Wow, it does. Please wait. Starting system. We're getting a signal. I think that's good, despite the fact that it's beeping at us weirdly. I mean, it was good in that the NAS still worked, but because I had installed Windows on it for the gaming experiment, it didn't have a NAS operating system on it, which explains why it didn't move past this UEFI interactive shell. So I went onto ASUS website to find an image for their OS that I can install on the NAS, but the only image they had was for you to like update or restore an ASUS NAS you already had access to, which I didn't because there was no OS on it. Regardless, I did try and Balena etch capture that image onto a USB drive, but then I ran into a different problem. I couldn't get to the boot menu in the NAS, but a quick Google got me past that.
So apparently if I type exit in here...
Hey, it worked. But unfortunately, as expected, the image didn't.
That ain't doing shit. That ain't doing shit either. I need to go flash this somewhere else because Belina Etcher on my Mac Studio has never produced a working image for me.
But obviously the other image also didn't work because it wasn't a proper image. So I had to go find a different NAS operating system to install on the ASUS store. And after doing some research, I decided to give Zima OS a try, despite the fact that it sounds like a 90s powdered energy drink for children that was discontinued because it gave a bunch of teenagers epilepsy. And the install attempt initially seemed to be going very well. We got some hacker manning and progress bars, and eventually the system restarted and booted into Zima OS. But then it almost immediately crashed, and when I tried to boot into it again, it just got stuck on the little flashing reticle. At which point I was starting to feel a little out of my depth, so I decided to post a video on my Patreon asking for advice, where Inappropriate Tools gave a super useful breakdown about various things that I need to look out for, and they mentioned that just because I saw this on the display out of the NAS didn't mean that the NAS didn't actually post, so I should try to remote log in to Zima OS, which worked! The only issue was that 2 of my drives were AFK, which might explain all of the light beeping coming from the ASUS store. Luckily, all I had to do to revive my comatose drives was randomly swap them into different bays until eventually Zima detected all of them. At which point I also decided to reach out to Marco from ASUS store, who sent over a full OS image. Which means after all that, I decided to, instead of going the Zima route, just to reinstall the original ASUS store OS on the thing just to see how that goes.
First, we want to turn it off. Then we plug this bad boy in. Then we start this up again and we hold this button till it does that. I don't know what it's doing. It's kind of stopped flashing over there. Come on. Do summon.
After a while, it let out what can only be described as a death-curled scream.
Oh! Oh!
But apparently, according to Marco, this wasn't it screaming to be put out of its misery, it was a good thing. This was it celebrating the OS was successfully installed. I then restarted it, which led to some more screams. I restarted it again, and then it posted.
So that's also one of the reasons why I wanted ASUS Store's actual OS on here, is that I can... Oh. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna connect to it with the ASUS Store app.
But my suffering was far from over. Despite me being able to find the ASUS Store NAS on my network and logging into it, it couldn't detect any of the 4 hard drives plugged into it. So I reseated all 4 of the hard drives, at which point it found 3 of them for some reason. Now, to cut a whole load of suffering short, I spent well over an hour with Marco on the phone trying different hard drive configurations to get something that would work. And it was also so fickle, like when I replaced the drive that wasn't being detected with a different drive, it didn't detect that drive in that slot either. So I then tried to initialize the NAS with just 3 drives in it, which also didn't work despite it detecting all 3 of the drives.
Wait, there's a second red drive now.
Eventually, the only configuration that I could get to initialize was 2 drives running in RAID, giving me 4 terabytes of storage. I clearly did some terrible things to this NAS 2 years ago, because it is a traumatized device.
Okay, so with that huge amount of struggle to reverse the bad stuff I did to the NAS, we now have some network access storage. I just have 4 terabytes of usable space at this point, but it is in RAID, so one of the drives can fail, and that means it's like permanent storage, right? That's like full backup, no worries, it's all safe. That's how that works. Which brings us to step number 2, which is to get a notes backup app running on the NAS. So let's head over to its software, because hopefully I can just download an app on it and it'll work. Maybe, I think so. This step's gonna be easy.
It wasn't. I decided to go with Trillium Notes because, well, I don't know, some person on Reddit seemed really excited about it. Now, unfortunately, Trillium Notes doesn't have an app in the ASUS Store App Store, which meant to install it, I had to interact with Docker. which also meant using Protainer, which, I don't know, as far as I understand, it's like a graphical user interface that helps you deploy stuff in Docker. It's supposed to make it easier to use, but that was not my experience. Okay, this has quickly gone from yay, I got the NAS working, to why is Pertainer the biggest pain in my ass of anything I've ever interacted with. It's just crashed halfway through the thing of me like making the profile, so I've restarted the NAS. Hopefully that fixes it. It's probably not though, knowing me and how this stuff goes. So let's see if we can get it. See. Now, in order to initially log into Protainer, you need a setup token, which you have to get by SSHing into your NAS via the terminal on your computer, and then bringing up your Docker log so that you can find your setup token in that. Now, if that doesn't mean anything to you, it doesn't to me either. And the most annoying part is once I eventually figured out how to get to my setup token, the Protainer login timed out. I don't know, I feel like you can't make something extremely difficult to interact with and then only give you a tiny window to interact with it. Invalid or missing setup token. I then had to re-SSH into my NAS, but this time it didn't accept the password for some reason. Like I can't connect to it anymore. It doesn't work. It wants a password that I don't have. It's not supposed to need a password, at least according to the AI overview, which is not the correct way to research this, but I don't know. It worked the first time and then it timed out because I apparently am too much of a noob to do it fast enough. Now I don't have access to it anymore. Okay, so I'm starting to think that before I try and install the note-keeping app on it, I should probably enable reverse proxy so that I could go home and spend time at home trying to get it to work. Now, as you would expect with how this video's gone, the reverse proxy process didn't go great. Now, what keeps happening is when I try and do a thing, I find a set of instructions for how to set up a reverse proxy, for example. Then, when you get 2 steps into the instructions, your thing doesn't react the way that the instructions said that it should react, which roundhouse kicks you into a rabbit hole of trying to fix the problem so that you can get back to the original instructions. And the next thing you know, it's 2 hours later and you're busy trying to log into Porkbun while fighting back the urge to just fling all of your network hardware out the closest window. Why does all of this look like it's part of a university course that I'm definitely gonna fail? I don't understand. But eventually, after a whole lot of shouting, I got to the point where I just decided to use ASUSTOR's Easy Connect, which is designed to make remote accessing your NAS way more idiot-proof, and it was really easy to set up. The problem is, once I got home, I realized that I couldn't actually interact with like Portainer on the NAS remotely, so I couldn't actually do any more work towards getting Trillium working. I then came back to the office the next day and spent another 2 hours trying to get the Trillium app on my phone to connect to my NAS. It seems like I had successfully used Portainer to install the Trillium app on my NAS because, well, the container shows up. I just couldn't get the Trillium app on my phone to connect to my NAS. I tried the local IP, I tried Ease Connect, I tried Trailscale, I set up port forwarding on my router, none of it worked. The closest I got to getting it working was having the network sync button in the Trillium app just ignore me instead of giving me straight up error codes. And then after wasting days of my life trying to get this damn remote backup working, I decided I should probably test the Trillium app without backup to see how I like it. And you know what? I hate the app. It's terrible. The mobile app feels like Arch Linux had a baby with the Windows stereotype in an I'm a Mac ad. At which point I decided I was just gonna set up Image so that I at least had some local backup of a thing on my cell phone that Google didn't own. There we go. We accomplished 3 things in this video, which means the video's over now, so leave me alone.